Well, yeah, I was going to say not so much for me an under par batting display, but more a superb bowling performance from Nepal, particularly Kami. 2 overs, no maidens, 2 for 8.
Jar Warner not out 24. Trott run out 4. Very fine piece of fielding at cover point there, and a good throw to the bowler's end, which ran him out. Stevenson caught Sam bowl Kami without scoring. Moore caught Kami Bilgo Chan for 6, and Coles caught Karen by bowl Kami 5, and Watt just faced a solitary ball and was left undefeated without scoring. So 40 for 4 for the MCC in the 6-over match. Jamie, any final words for you?
I don't think the chase will be as simple as it looks necessarily, because I'm hedging my bets and sitting on fences and all the rest. But it does look obviously an under par score. So I would be expecting perhaps.
Just quickly give you the bowling figures. Kami, as we said, did 2 overs, 2 for 8. Tremendous performance from him. Kadka 1 over for 7. Lamachane 1 over for 13. Gao Chan 1 over, 1 wicket for 6 runs, and Bandari bowled 1 over, tidy over, no wicket for 5. So a very tidy bowling performance from Nepal indeed. As ground, I think there's going to be a change in the commentary box.
Yeah, so thanks, James. As he said earlier, we have got, I'm not sure what your correct title is, Peter, but we have Associate Cricket Guru Peter Della Penna with us. Is your microphone working, Peter?
We're all clear, we're all good here.
Yeah, you're good, you're all good. Peter, if I could start with, we've seen about 2,000 fans, we reckon, from Nepal in the Mount Stand. They've been massively raucous today. How big is the international coming up in the sort of context of Nepal cricket and associate nations in general?
Well, Nepal in particular, now that Afghanistan has got full member test status, Nepal has, I guess, the most commanding fan base, the most commanding following, and the fact that they secured ODI status in Zimbabwe, the World Cup qualifier, just magnifies that exponentially. And when they get the chance to come out to Lord's on a day like today, even as miserable and blustery and cold as it is today, you know, you have a month of nothing but dry, searing heat, and then Nepal shows up, and what happens? They bring the rain with them.
Yes, and you showed up, the listeners can't see, but in your board shorts and an overcoat.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the point is, yeah, 2,000 fans here on the worst day in the last, month and a half, and you can't turn them away. I mean, that's how excited they are for an occasion like this. The fact that they get to take on an MCC side captained by Jai Warden, and talking to the fans yesterday who were here for the training session, I think they're actually more excited this time around for the match that's supposed to follow, that being a T20 international. When they were here 2 years ago, it was just against the MCC, but the fact that they had that T20 international status stripped by a poor finish at the 2015 World T20 qualifier, this is going to be their first T20 international in 3 years, and it's a momentum.
For some of our listeners who may not know that story.
Well, those are the words of Paras Kadka, the captain. Some people might argue that their biggest day was 3 years earlier when they qualified for the T20 World Cup for the first time, and they went to Bangladesh and they beat Hong Kong in their first match, and they beat Afghanistan at the T20 World Cup, and that was in front of a global TV audience and their first time being in an major ICC global event. But he says no, getting ODI status, that trumps that, and it was more the manner and how they did it. If you rewind a little bit, a month earlier they were in Namibia at World Cricket League Division 2. That was the lead-in tournament to qualify for the tournament in Zimbabwe. And they had 3 victories that came either on the last ball or on the last wicket, including against Canada in the final day of round-robin play, which was a last ball, last wicket win. and it was just an extraordinary journey to get to Zimbabwe. And then, despite having a couple of losses in the group stage, the results configured that they entered the losers bracket playoffs with a chance at ODI status. They beat Papua New Guinea, and on the other side, Netherlands beat Hong Kong, and the combination of those two results secured ODI status for Nepal and actually relinquished ODI status for both Papua New Guinea and Hong Kong. So there's a balancing act there. It was a great occasion for Nepal, but you feel for Hong Kong and Papua New Guinea that they're not able to maintain that status. And a lot of people would say, why have to strip it entirely? Why can't they all have that status? Because all three of those teams are certainly good enough.
And you talk about stripping status. The players have come out. The 5-minute bells just rung. Unfortunately, we have a 6-minute interval to talk to you, Peter. But as we watch, I think that is... Unfortunately, there are no player names on the back of the MCC players, but we're going to see the first ball bowled in...
Looks like Matt Coles.
Matt Coles, that's right. And we're expecting Shah and Malla to open the batting. But there's a lot of criticism, and I know you've been vocal about this, about cricket contracting. And you talk about losing their ODI status, Papua New Guinea and Hong Kong, as Coles bowls, and that's down the leg side, and there's a pull and a miss, and a wide signal by the umpires, standing umpires of Debenham and Hago, and a wide, quite rightly signalled, that's down the leg side. One slip, the men out are at deep cover, and I think, in fact, that is the only man out of the ring, so an unusually attacking field for a 2020. But cricket...
Subhash Kakkarel is opening the batting with Anil Saad.
Thank you. Unfortunately, my eyes aren't good enough, as that's flicked into the leg side, and Nepal are off the mark. Flicked nicely to the fielder down there at deep mid-wicket, and they get through for 2. But there's been a lot of criticism about the World Cup, Peter, and that's contracting. And is that something you also think people should be looking at, is the fact that these associates are limited as to the number of one-day accredited sides there can be?
Well, in kind of conjunction with that, there's a misconception about why the World Cup gets reduced.
As Coles bowls, and Kakkarel is driven it straight back to Coles, and he's got one hand on it, but they'll get through for a single.
The misunderstanding is that by reducing the number of teams, you're reducing the length of the tournament, because one of the chief complaints is it's too long and it goes on forever. And that's just not the case. Cutting it from 14 to 10 teams has only reduced the length of the World Cup by, I think, 1 or 2 days. You still have 49 matches because of the contract stipulations. They need a set number of games, and that's to guarantee that India gets on TV X amount of times. So it's a false conception.
Coles bowls, and that's flicked by Saar straight to the man fielding at mid-on, and there's no run.
It's a false conception to claim that you're reducing the teams, you're improving the strength of the tournament, and you're making it shorter to make it more interesting. That's just not the case, and there's been a lot of research and statistical analytical work to show that the associate teams actually play some of the most competitive matches, tournament in, tournament out, and there's no reason why they should be kept out.
Coles bowls to Saar, and that's flicked up in the air. That's gone over the fielder at long on. It might plug as it lands, but no, it rolls into the cow corner boundary for 4 runs. So the first boundary for Nepal. They move on to 8 for none in the first over, and they are coasting currently to that target of 41 set by the MCC.
Anil Saar scored a century in one of the warm-up games. They played 4 matches against club sides leading into this day at Lords, and he, along with Paras Katka, scored centuries, and he's a young batsman, Saar, and if he can step up, they're looking for more batting depth, and it would be great for him to do that.
Coles bowls down the leg side again. That's not... Oh, it is signalled a wide, quite rightly. That did go past the leg stump, and those are the rules. It went straight through to the keeper, so we'll have to bowl that one again. And we saw Lamichhane bowl today, who didn't have the best of overs, but he's an emerging star, isn't he? A teen star in Nepal. He's played 3 matches for the Delhi Daredevils. Is that the way forward, do you think? Nepal players increasingly playing in these franchise tournaments? As Coles bowls his 5th ball, and that's gone straight through to the keeper. There's an appeal from Coles, but I think it's missed everything, and there's no run.
The only way, or the best way, for these guys to improve and test their skills is to get exposure in these franchise tournaments where they're getting to mingle with players from full member nations. And not only has he gotten the opportunity to do that, but he shined in the chances he's got with Daredevils, and more recently in the Global T20 Canada.
Coles is in, and that's outside the off stump, and Saar gives himself some room but isn't able to connect. So that's the end of the first over, 9 for none.
You know, and it's a case of, again, just pure opportunity, whether it's the teams broadly scheduling more matches between the likes of Nepal or Netherlands against full members, and it's great that the Netherlands are going to be in the 13-team ODI league coming up in a few years. But you know, individually, the players, when they get opportunities to be drafted or be auctioned in the IPL or the Caribbean Premier League or the Global T20 Canada, whatever, and they're getting to stand shoulder to shoulder with the likes of Chris Gale, or even some of the younger Indian stars like Rishabh Pant, who is a teammate of Delhi Daredevils, who's in the touring squad for England. Now, they're only going to improve, and Lamachani is only 17. He's going to be the first global superstar for Nepal. Within Nepal domestically, Paras Khadka is far and away the #1 most popular player, but he's kind of heading towards the tail end of his career now. He's been the captain for a decade, and he's only got a few years left in him. Lamachani has an opportunity to be the first real global superstar for Nepal.
Kakaral's going to be facing Evans, who's going to be bowling his first over. That's outside the off stump, and that's off the outside edge. The man fielding it, deep third man, and they will take a single. And Peter, you mentioned Afghanistan just got test status. Is Afghanistan now the template for a country like Nepal for growing its cricket and trying to make the step up into the bigger leagues?
I think everybody's looking up to Nepal, looking up to Afghanistan. It's not just Nepal. All the associates, the journey that they took from Division 5 is just the stuff of dreams, and Nepal took a very similar journey.
As Evans bowls, and that's again glided down a little bit wider this time, but third man will cut it off, and that's only a single to Saar, 11 for none.
The passion in both countries is very similar too. Even in domestic matches in Afghanistan and as well as Nepal, you'll get 10,000, 15,000 people to show up at games in Kabul and also in Kathmandu at the Tribhuvan Stadium. There's something called the Everest Premier League. They've got their own T20 domestic competition. It doesn't have as much.
Another franchise to clutter up the system. Evans bowls, and that's pulled, and it's pulled into the wide open spaces out there. There's a fielder at deep mid wicket. Will again cut it off, and that's 12 for none. Nepal have moved on to.
Doesn't have as much notoriety as obviously some of the other full member franchise competitions, but they've had some overseas stars. Sikandar Raza, I think, is signed up to go there from Zimbabwe. Last year they had Farviz Maharoof, the former Sri Lankan international, captain one of the teams. So they are getting a good mixture of overseas talent to help improve the standard and get their guys opportunities within Nepal.
Evans over the wicket to Saar, and that's an outside edge that's gone over the head of the wicketkeeper, and it's flown to the backstop position to the boundary for 4 runs. So the second boundary for Saar moves on to 9, 16 for none.
That competition, I was talking with one of the organizers who was involved with that yesterday, has a first prize of $20,000 US, which might not sound like a lot, but in Nepalese rupees, it's phenomenal, and helps professionalize the players. Aside from Lamachani, you're getting more of their first choice players on some sort of pay scale, which helps them focus on the game.
Evans to Saar, and that's nicked. Oh no, it's not nicked. I thought that had gone off the outside edge, but it's just gone straight through to the wicketkeeper, so a dot ball.
And all those things, whether it's in Afghanistan, Nepal, even the USA, which is my main beat, they've got a host of T20 kind of upstart competitions that are not formally sanctioned by the ICC, but you get quite a lot of overseas players coming in and mix in with the players.
Evans to Saar.